Good day, everyone. So for today, we're going to discuss our first topic for Linguistics 1. Our topic for today is linguistics and the nature and gift of language. So we have the following objectives for our said lesson. At the end of the lesson, the students should be able to understand linguistics through the given overview and discuss language according to different linguists' definitions. We start off with a quote by Noam Chomsky, who is considered as the father of modern linguistics. When we study human language, we are approaching what some might call the human essence, the distinctive qualities of mind that are, so far as we know, unique to man. So as we know, language, kumbaga, is what places us on a higher pedestal than other animals. So it's what makes us unique or what sets us apart from other organisms and creatures because we are capable of speech. Although animals are capable of somehow making sounds to communicate with their fellow animals, it's different from the language that we use wherein we are really able to produce sounds so that we may be understood. So whatever else people do when they come together, whether they play, fight, make love, or make automobiles, they talk. So we live in a world of language. So it's inevitable, kumbaga, whatever you do in life every day, either online man or offline, whatever you want to accomplish or whatever you accomplish, you really make use of language, either for academic purposes man na or for recreational na purposes. So television and radio further swells this torrent of words, even for recreation like television and radio, diba? So television is audiovisual, radio is audio. So um, it still makes use of language. For example, mga music videos that we see or watch in our television or our computer screens, kag mga screens natin sa phones and tablets and so on and so forth. So it makes use of language. Radio as well. For example, mga radio drama or news or listening to songs, hindi mo na siya puro lang static, kumbaga. So when we listen to the radio, we listen sa language used in order to understand. So wala man guro sa inyo dira nga naga-open lang sa radyo para mamati sa gaburon or static nga wala sang station. So definition of language. So these are linguists or numerous or various linguists' definition of language. First, we start off with Henry Lee Smith. So according to Henry Lee Smith, language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by which by means of which the members of speech community or a subcultural group interact. Hence, a language is a system for communicating with each other in terms of common values, attitudes, assumptions, and common experiences. So, in short, in spite of Henry Lee Smith's very lengthy, kumbaga, na ma-consider na definition of language, the core of his definition is that language is arbitrary or language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols. So what do we mean when we say that language is arbitrary? So language is arbitrary kumbaga, though there's no reason why nga naging amo na, kumbaga. So a language form does not have an innate or natural relationship with its meaning. Let's take, for example, the pictures that we have here. So in English, or if we are going to take into consideration the English language, we refer to this photo or this object in the photo as a turkey. And we refer to this picture or to this object, the object in this image as a dog. Now, why is this object called a turkey? Nga ba turkey? Kay daw letter T siya, halin diri sa liog niya, pakadto sa iya tiil, daw small letter T siya. Ano ba? Okay, daw why gid man may pagpakadto diri makita ko ang resemblance. So, or ano ba, ginag-remind ba siya sa mga tao sa when you say Turkey or pag manakita ba nilang animal nga ni? Does it remind them of the country Turkey? So no, there is no reason as such. Or for example, the sound that the animal makes, the turkey makes is sounds like turkey man. So no. So ang language is arbitrary because wala sang reason or there is no reason behind why it's called or why, for example, why objects are called the way they are. So it's called turkey because that's how people call them. Halin dati until now. For example, for dog. So ang dog, di indira nga nag-letter D ang lapit sa dog. Daw letter G, gid man siya pag-abot na sa lawas niya. For example, ari kay ano siya, do corgi ni siya eh. Aduga pa letter G ang sabuli sang corgi. So hindi man sang amo na nga reason, kumbaga. So especially also if you take into consideration na that's just the English language. So we call this in English, we call this in English as turkey and this one as dog. But then if we take into consideration na the other other languages such as your Hiligaynon, for example, so pabo and ido. So pabo naman kung if you are going to fight na language is not arbitrary, you will have to come up with reasons why. Pabo tawag namon sini kay ari do letter P siya diri lapit, do letter P nga nag-curve. Diin ang A dira. So kailangan mo naman i-explain. You will have to come up with hundreds and even thousands of explanations for each term why they are named the way they are. So Hiligaynon pa lang kag English daw maglisod ka na kumbaga or mabudlayan ka na. What more if other languages? So language is arbitrary. Kumbaga. Another definition of language by Edward Sapir is that language is purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of auditory system of voluntarily produced symbols. So for example, for us, or if we compare humans with other organisms such as animals, for example, when or when you have a pet na cat or dog, so of course, common sense will tell you, of course, that such pets or animals do not make use of language or speech as humans do. For example, if your dog barks, do ikaw na nag-interpret kung ano kinanglan niya. So mag-aw-aw siya dira. For example, you interpret, ay gutom ka na, gutom na ang baby, mag-amamo ka lang sina. So although you are not sure kung ano gid ganamin niya, kay syempre, amo lang man ang ma-produce niya na sound. The dog can only bark. Hindi siya maghambal nga, ay gutom na ko te, pakanaan ako te. So, kuratan ka man. Kung mag-amo ng dog, ang imo nga pet dog sa imo one day. Manguhit siya kang mahambal siya nga managutom na siya. So, for example, you only make use or you try to assume na lang from the sound, singular sound that they make. Same with your cats, because they only meow. Sorry. So that's why, that's what makes us different from them, because for us, we already have a set grid of sounds that we make that conveys a specific meaning. So for example, if you hit someone or if you slap someone sa arm, for example, di ba may mga tao, there are people na when they laugh, they get physical. Kumbaga, na pag magkadlaw sila, kailangan may hampakon sila dira or may hawidan sila dira nga tao. So for example, if you slap someone while laughing and the person says agay, then it means na, for example, pag amo na, when they say agay, meaning it's painful, somehow painful for them. So kung our common sense will tell you that when you hear someone say agay after you slap them, you will not do it again. Except na lang kung masokista ka kag hampak-hampakon mo lang gapon kay gusto mo nga masakitan siya. So another definition of language by Leonard Bloomfield says that language is a form of human behavior consisting of a set of conditioned human responses to physical and chemical stimuli. So these responses are conditioned that is neither instinctive nor inherited, and they are substitutes to other forms of bodily behavior. So not only or kumbaga, there are instincts na sa body natin which are considered still as part of language, which could consist of your body language as well. So response to physical and chemical stimuli. So for example na lang, as I said, the past example that I have given you about slapping someone in the arm, so that's physical stimuli. When someone punches you, of course, if you are a human or if you are a human being naman with functioning nerves and everything sa body mo, if someone slaps you hard, nga sakit sa imo, of course, you would respond nga agay or or you would flinch, di ba? So chemical stimuli naman, chemical stimuli, for example, if you feel ill, so for example, if for women who undergo monthly menstrual periods, or for example for those who are irregular kung saan umana siya, for example, if you go through your dysmenorrhea, so you will groan, di ba? So you make such sound nga, ay kasakit ang pusoon mo. So that would mean, or for example, when your mother or your father or your sister sees you or hears you making that sound, magets nila nga, ay, something's wrong with her. Or, okay, daw, kabuanan niya, kumbaga. So language is a form of human behavior consisting of a set of conditioned human responses to physical and chemical stimuli. So another definition of language is by John Hodges. So language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by which thoughts are conveyed from one human being to another. So I already explained the meaning of language, why language is arbitrary. Kumbaga. So thoughts are conveyed from one human being to another. For example, from one tribe to another, or one group of people to another, na going back dito sa animal that I have used, the animal and the dog, animal and the dog, the turkey and the dog, rather, na for example, English speakers refer to those objects or those animals as turkey and dog, while Hiligaynon people refer to them as pabo and ido, for example. So there's no question na, because throughout their lifetime in their circle or in their group, amo na gid ang gina-refer nila to those objects or to those animals. Another definition of language is by Ferdinand Saussure. So according to him, language is a succession of discrete self-defining systems whose changes are brought about by the innovating factors introduced by individual deviations of the mass people speaking the language through time. So the English language is also a perfect example for that. Na English is continuously changing, kumbaga. So the English being spoken or being used in writing centuries and decades before is somehow different from the English language that we used to speak and write with now. So for example, you can see that in the classic literature or classic literary pieces that are still being widely read by people, especially you can understand that since you are English majors. So for people living in the modern times, it's hard to understand literary pieces from written during the old times pa or the classical times, mga times nila Shakespeare, for example, isang mga literary poets from the same time, from the Victorian period and so on, since they use arcane mga words in English which are considered arcane already or very old. So, di ba, for example, how do I love thee, mga thee, thy, thine, for example. So, you can see that in Shakespeare's writings and works, for example, in Romeo and Juliet. So, today, modern in English, we are continuing, or English is continuously evolving. Kumbaga, there are words that are being added to the dictionary which are considered na as a word guide na standard na word. For example, your selfie, ano pa ba ng mga words, for example. So language is changing throughout time. Another definition of language is by Firth. So language is a meaningful activity which can be described on different levels. So internal relation of the context of situation is one of them. So there are sometimes, so language is a meaningful activity as Firth says, and context of situation. For example na lang, mga inside jokes. There are, if you are a stranger or if you are to interfere, for example, sa conversation between two friends, tapos ikaw, hindi ka kasing close sa ilang nga dalawa in comparison to them. Kasi sila friendship, gid sila, ikaw daw, ano ka lang, daw you are still starting to warm up to them. So for example, if you are going to talk to them and then nagadiretso lang man sila istoryanay. Although ginsali kanila sa conversation, perhaps there's a time that they're going to talk about something na daw sila lang may mga inside joke sila ba nga, ay naalala mo tong sa ano? Ay oo, nagets ko to. So ikaw, for example, or if may mga words sila, if there are words used for example na understandable between them, though it's also understanding of the context of situation. Kumbaga, nga pag hindi mo gets kung ano tong meaning, ano ang context, you will not understand. For example, okay, nadumduman mo tong natabo sa tantangan. Oo, tong sa tantangan. So for example, ikaw, wala ka sang kalibutan, ano tong natabo sa tantangan, you will not be able to understand or ride sa convo nila. So next, we move on to language as communication. So language is used for communication, obviously, and it allows people to say things to each other and express their communicative needs. So the needs may vary or may be strong. So those communicative needs, they already encompass they already encompass both positive and negative. So it allows people to say things to each other to express their affection, to express their emotions, to express their anger, and so on and so forth. So for example, or some examples of those needs are needs of a married couple getting a divorce or discussing something very personal, need of someone to address his or her remarks to or of those religious people who devise sophisticated signal systems to avoid breaking their vows of perpetual silence. So for example, we have the first example there, the needs of a married couple getting a divorce or discussing something very personal. Of course, if a couple wants to get a divorce, they really have to communicate no matter how far apart they have drifted already. So hindi man pwede nga, hindi sila mag-communicate and it has to be, so for example, in other countries, since divorce is not legalized in our country yet, so divorce really has to go through a process. And how do you go through that process is through communication, either sa wife and sa husband or through their separate lawyers. So addressing religious people na, for example, na who undergo vows of perpetual silence, for example, mga monks in other countries or mga monks in general. So they have this period wherein they undergo perpetual silence na they would not talk. Di ba makita nyo sa mga movies, for example, or documentaries and how they are portrayed na some of them do not talk, kumbaga naga-sign lang, or they are just silent, they just hang their heads, kumbaga. So if you need to talk to someone who is undergoing vows of perpetual silence, so what would you do? So hindi mo, kung istoryahon mo siya, hindi man siya magsabat sa imo. So what would you do? Would you hand him or her a pen and paper para dito na lang kamo, or mag-sign using your hands, gestures, kumbaga. So language allows people to do the following as well: to live, work, and play together, to tell the truth, but also to tell a lie or lie. So language goes both ways na siya. Hindi na siya for all. Of course, we do not have control of it na tani, permi na lang good ang gamit sang language. We wish katani amo na lang to, but it's not that. So it's really a two-way street. Nga ginagamit siya for good, but also ginagamit siya for bad or for negative na mga deeds. So to live and work and play together, to tell the truth but also tell a lie. So for example, if may nag-deliver sa imo nga parcel, nga may gi-deliver ang Shopee sa imo nga parcel, mahambal ka nga, mahambal ang mama mo, o ano na naman ang ginbakal mo. So mahambal ka, ay nadaugan ko lang niya mga sa giveaway. So wala ko sang gingastuhan. So although nga dugay na gid to siya natambay sa Shopee mo, kagin check out mo na. So to tell the truth or to tell a lie. So to keep communication channels open as well, so that if any need arises to say something of importance, a suitable channel is available. So for example, this is applicable for our online class setting right now. Na although online man ta or offline, na face-to-face pa, and now na online class setting na ta on our second year, we also have communication channels. So although it's easier to reach people or to reach out to people sang face-to-face pa, we still have channels or platforms now that we are in the online setting to accommodate or to cater to students' needs. So at times, people may say something, but it can mean another. So meanings are in people as well. So for example, it could be na it's really in the language used. For example, in Bisaya and Hiligaynon. So for example, when we say karon, so there's really a difference already in the word palang na karon. When you are a Hiligaynon speaker and a Bisaya na speaker. When you say karon in Hiligaynon, that means later. While karon to Bisaya speaking people, that means now. So for example, you can see the confusion between people, and it really happens. For example, with some of my colleagues here at work, na when you say na magkuha ta sa office ang amo sini. Sige, karon na? O sige, karon na lang. For example, magambay nga karon na ang Bisaya, and then mag-answer ang Hiligaynon na sige, karon na lang. So ang ginamin sang Bisaya is now, while the Hiligaynon speaker means sige, later na lang. So that's it. So we also have that na mga other words perhaps that could cause misunderstanding, or sometimes people really want to misunderstand it although it's clear. That happens usually with men and women. For example, the women is clearly saying no, but then the men insist nga ay nagapakipot lang ni siya. So I don't know, although nga ginhambal na gid no, kulang na lang ibutang na sa agtang. So that's when it breaks na people may say something but it can mean another nga situational naman siya. But when someone says no, no gid na siya. Kumbaga, so don't make any other meaning sa amoto. Kumbaga. So hindi ni siya sang teleserye, kumbaga ang real life. So 'di ba in teleserye kasi or mga K-dramas, for example, C-dramas, kung ano pa dira. Nga the guy is cold but then gusto niya man gid gali ang babae, for example. Nga ang mga cold actions niya equates actually to affection towards the person. So that's perhaps one example of people may say something but it can mean another, kumbaga. But then, for example, amo na to, exception siya. When someone says no, no gid na siya. Hindi na ipilit, kumbaga. So a language allows its speakers to talk about anything within their realm of knowledge. For example, if you know something, or especially if it's your passion, for example, if you are fond of K-dramas, so it really, language allows you, although you do not understand or do not speak Korean, so since we have subtitles, di ba? So that's one way as well how language allows us to talk about anything with our realm of knowledge. Because of, for example, if wala sa may mga naga-translate sang Korean to English, we will never know about the magic that K-drama offers. Kumbaga. Or we will never know about these shows that we like to watch out for these days. So same goes with teaching, for example. So language allows me as your teacher to relay the information I know that is within my realm of knowledge and share it to you who are my students. So the same goes for you as well, that language allows you to share to the class what you know about a specific topic or subject. So languages may make some things easier for their speakers to say than other things as well. So for example, if people find it hard to show it through their actions, since mga body action can still, bodily actions can still be considered language rin naman, kumbaga, or since that's still considered ang aton nga bodily actions, they are still considered language, which is your non-verbal na language, kumbaga, so that still speaks volumes. For example, if you can say it sa face to face to someone nga you don't want to be with them anymore, or you don't want to hang out with them anymore, nga hindi mo kaya hambalon sa ila verbally, so you show it non-verbally nga daw gapalayo ka na, you are distancing yourself, you're going with, or you're hanging out with someone instead of hanging out with them. So linguists can take an interest in how meaningfulness is achieved in language, even though at times precise questions about meaning cannot easily be formulated or answered even when formulated. So one example of meaningfulness is these three sentences. For example, number one, my friend Peter played the guitar Sentence number 2, the guitar was played by my friend Peter. And sentence number 3, my friend and the guitar played Peter. So you analyze the sentences first. So the question is, are the three sentences, or do the three sentences convey the same meaning in terms of meaningfulness? So they are written in three different ways, but do they convey the same meaning? So I'll give you some time to think about that, or you can pause this video to think about that. So the answer there is no. So what's the difference kumbaga between these three sentences is, so first we have sentence number 1. My friend Peter played the guitar. So it's understandable na the performer of the action is Peter. So Peter, you can picture out Peter perhaps is sitting down on his bed, plays ang guitar. Next, we have the sentence number 2. The guitar was played by my friend Peter. So it has, or it holds the same meaning or weight in meaning as your sentence 1. Now, what's the difference is, nauna ang object nga gina-performance sang performer or sang actor. The guitar was played by my friend Peter. Ang performer gapon dira, or ang nagaplay gapon sa guitar, is si Peter. We have the third sentence on the other hand, my friend and the guitar played Peter. So medyo abstract na siya, though medyo kadlukan na i-picture out nga my friend and the guitar played Peter. Ang performer dire is dalawa na.